The street was nearly silent, just the distant hum of cars and the soft rustle of the early morning breeze. But in the shadows of a crumbling alleyway, something heartbreaking was happening. Two stray dogs lay side by side on the cold concrete, their matted fur soaked from the night's rain. One, a brown mutt with kind eyes, lay still, his hind leg twisted unnaturally beneath him. The other, slightly smaller and trembling, stood guard. He didn't bark. He didn't run. He just stood there, watching everyone who passed with eyes full of silent pleading. This is not just a story about animals. It's a story about loyalty, about love, and about the kind of bond that not even pain or fear can break. It started with a call. Local volunteers from a small animal rescue group received a report. 2 injured dogs had been spotted near the old warehouse district. The team had seen a lot over the years, but what they found that morning would leave a lasting mark on every single heart. As the rescuers approached the scene, the smaller dog, later named Max, stood firmly between them and his injured friend. Max growled, low and unsure, more from fear than aggression. His tiny frame trembled, but he refused to move. He planted his feet beside his friend's broken body, as if to say, "You're not taking him without me." A volunteer named Rachel crouched down slowly, her voice gentle. "It's okay, sweet boy. We're here to help." Max didn't budge. Every time they inched closer, Max pressed himself closer to the wounded dog, later named Bruno, whimpering softly, nudging him, trying to comfort him, protect him. Rachel reached into her bag and pulled out a small piece of boiled chicken. The moment Max smelled it, his ears twitched. Hunger battled fear inside him. He hadn't eaten properly in days. But still he didn't move. "Come on, buddy," Rachel whispered. "You can both be safe. But I need you to trust me." It took nearly half an hour. Bit by bit, Max inched toward the food, keeping his eyes locked on Rachel. When he was finally close enough, she didn't grab him. She just sat still, letting him sniff her hand, letting him decide. And he did. Slowly, cautiously, Max allowed Rachel to slip a leash over his neck. But as soon as the rescuers approached Bruno, Max lunged back toward him, barking and pulling. Rachel's eyes welled up. He's not leaving without his friend. The team gently lifted Bruno, wrapping him in a warm blanket. He whimpered in pain, but Max was right beside him, licking his face, whining softly. They were loaded into the rescue van, together. Max refused to sit in the front. He leapt into the back and curled up next to Bruno, his body pressed tight against his friend's. At the clinic, Bruno's injuries were worse than they thought. His leg was fractured in 2 places. He had deep cuts along his side, possibly from being hit by a vehicle. He needed surgery, immediately. While the vets worked to stabilize Bruno, Max waited in the corner of the room, eyes fixed on the operating table, ears perked for every sound. He didn't lie down. He didn't sleep. When a vet tried to move him out, Max let out a sharp, panicked yelp and refused to leave. Rachel convinced the staff to let Max stay. Hours passed. Then came the moment everyone had been waiting for. The door opened, and Bruno was wheeled out on a stretcher. He was groggy but alive. And the moment Max saw him, his tail began to wag, a slow, gentle rhythm, like a heartbeat of hope. Max licked Bruno's face over and over. He lay down beside him, resting his head on Bruno's chest as if assuring him, "I'm still here. I'm not going anywhere." The team had seen rescues before. They'd seen pain, joy, even loss. But they had never seen anything quite like this. 2 souls. One injured, the other refusing to let go. As the first rays of sunlight slipped through the clinic windows, Rachel whispered to herself, "I think we just witnessed the purest kind of love." But this story was far from over, because what Max did next shocked everyone. / to be continued. For the next few days, Max never left Bruno's side. The clinic staff set up a soft bed for him near Bruno's recovery crate. He had food, water, and warmth, luxuries he had gone without for so long. But none of that mattered to Max. His eyes were fixed on one thing, Bruno. Every time Bruno whimpered in pain, Max would jump up and whine, pawing gently at the metal bars, desperate to comfort him. The bond they shared wasn't ordinary. It was something deeper, something sacred. On the 3rd day, as Bruno began to regain strength, the staff noticed something remarkable. Bruno didn't want to eat unless Max was beside him. He would lie still, staring at the food until Max appeared. Only then, seeing his best friend near, would he take a bite. "Max is his medicine," Rachel said with a soft smile. Bruno's leg was healing slowly. The vet had placed a sturdy cast over the fractures, and though the pain was under control, his body still trembled with every step. But Max, he was always there. When Bruno tried to stand, Max stood beside him. When Bruno struggled, Max nudged him gently, encouraging him to keep trying. Not a single growl, not a bark, just quiet, patient presence. One evening, Rachel entered the clinic late, bringing in extra blankets for the dogs. As she passed the recovery room, she paused. Inside, Max had somehow squeezed himself halfway into Bruno's crate, resting his head beside Bruno's and letting out a deep, contented sigh. It was as if he was saying, "You're safe now. We made it." Rachel wiped a tear from her cheek. How can people say animals don't feel love? But even as the days passed and Bruno's body healed, something still haunted his eyes. The team could see it. It was like a shadow, a memory he couldn't shake. He flinched at loud sounds, especially car noises. He didn't want to go outside. Whenever someone tried to carry him toward the door, he would dig his paws in, eyes wide with panic. Max, on the other hand, showed signs of old scars, both physical and emotional. He had a patch of fur missing near his back leg, and a faint limp when he walked for too long. Whatever life they'd lived before the rescue, it hadn't been kind. Rachel decided to dig deeper. She began canvassing the neighborhood near the warehouse district. Most people didn't remember the dogs. Some shrugged. Others whispered about a man who used to throw scraps to 2 strays before he disappeared weeks ago. But one old woman remembered clearly. They were always together, she said, her voice frail but sure. The big one protected the little one from the street boys. And the small one, he used to sleep beside the big one every night, even in the cold. Rachel nodded. It made sense now. They weren't just friends. They were family. Perhaps the only family either had ever known. Back at the clinic, the team began gentle outdoor sessions with Bruno, using Max as motivation. The first time they opened the door to the grassy play yard, Bruno froze. He wouldn't move. Max bounded out joyfully, wagging his tail, then looked back. When he saw Bruno still inside, he rushed back to him, licking his face and nudging him forward. Bruno hesitated. Max barked softly. Once, twice, as if calling him. Come on, you can do this. And then, Bruno took one step, then another. Cheers erupted from the staff watching through the glass. From that moment on, Bruno improved quickly. With Max beside him, he walked farther, played longer, even learned to fetch a softball. Though it took time. The bond between them seemed to inspire everyone around them. Volunteers began spending more time at the clinic just to see them. Donations poured in after the rescue team shared their story online. Comments flooded in. This is the most beautiful thing I've seen in years. These dogs understand love better than most people. I cried watching this. But just when it seemed like everything was finally falling into place, something unexpected happened. One afternoon, a man appeared at the clinic's front desk. He was tall, with tired eyes and rough hands. His voice trembled. I think those are my dogs. Rachel looked up, stunned. What do you mean? She asked cautiously. The man pulled out an old photo. In it were 2 younger dogs, one brown, one smaller with a crooked ear. They were sitting in a small backyard, tails wagging, eyes full of joy. I lost my home 3 months ago, he said quietly. Had to move in with my brother. Couldn't keep them. I left them with a friend, but he abandoned them. I've been looking ever since. Rachel's heart raced. Wait here, she said. She walked slowly toward the recovery room. Max and Bruno were napping together, curled up like puzzle pieces that only made sense side by side. She knelt beside them and whispered, There's someone here to see you. When the man entered, he didn't say a word. He just knelt on the floor and opened his arms. Max opened his eyes. He stared for a moment. Then, without warning, he leapt forward, tail wagging furiously, whimpering and licking the man's face. Bruno tried to stand but stumbled. The man rushed to him, tears streaming down his cheeks. You're home. You're finally home, he whispered. The room was silent except for the sound of joy and quiet sobs. But Rachel knew this wasn't the end. She watched them reunite, her heart full, but her mind filled with questions. Because what the man said next changed everything. To be continued. Rachel stood silently as the man held Max and Bruno close to his chest. Their bodies pressed against him, tails wagging, soft whimpers escaping between deep, emotional breaths. The reunion felt complete, until he spoke again. I want to take them home, he said. But I don't have a home right now. The room fell quiet. I'm staying in a small shed behind my brother's place. He doesn't want dogs there. I thought maybe if I could find work and a place of my own, I'd get them back. Max, still leaning into his old owner, looked up as if sensing the uncertainty. Bruno, tired but content, laid his head on the man's knee. Rachel knelt beside him. They've been through so much, and they love you. But they need safety, stability, medical care. Can you give them that soon? The man's face fell. Not yet, but I want to. God, I want to. They're my boys. Rachel believed him. His eyes weren't lying. But love in this world wasn't always enough. That night, after the man left, promising to return with updates, Rachel and the rescue team sat together. They had a decision to make. Could they hold the dogs indefinitely, waiting for a future that might never come? Could they risk letting them go only to have them end up back on the streets? The clinic launched a quiet campaign titled Max and Bruno's Forever Home. They shared the full story, complete with pictures of their rescue, their bond, their bravery, and the bittersweet reunion. Thousands watched. Tens of thousands. Offers came from all over the world. Families offered to adopt them, together. Others donated money, food, and supplies. And one woman, a retired nurse living on a farm just outside the city, wrote a message that caught everyone's attention. I don't have much, but I have love, space, and quiet. I lost my old dog last year, and swore I couldn't go through it again. Then I saw Max and Bruno. I realized, love doesn't stop with loss. It grows. I'd be honored to give them a home. Both of them, always together. Rachel arranged a visit. The farm was everything the boys could have needed. Wide open fields, a warm cottage, a cozy dog room, and someone who spoke to them like they were her own children. Max and Bruno walked around carefully, sniffing the grass, unsure at first. But when the woman sat on the porch and called them softly, they both trotted over and lay their heads in her lap. That was the moment. Rachel turned to the old man one final time. He had come to see them off, tears in his eyes. They deserve this, he said. I'll never stop loving them, but I know they'll be safe now. He knelt down, kissed each of them on the forehead, and whispered, You saved each other. Now live free. The drive to their new home was quiet. Max kept looking out the window, as if he knew something new was coming. Bruno, tired from the journey, rested his head on Max's shoulder. They didn't whine. They didn't cry. They were ready. At the farm, they adjusted quickly. Within days, Max was chasing butterflies and Bruno was walking with more strength each day. The woman sent updates. Pictures of them sleeping together, eating side by side, watching sunsets from the porch. Rachel kept each update in a folder titled Brothers by Heart. Weeks turned into months. The bond between Max and Bruno remained as strong as ever. And though they now had new smells, new sights, and a new friend who loved them deeply, they never forgot each other, or the journey that brought them here. One evening, Rachel received a short video. In it, Max and Bruno were lying together under a tree. The sun was setting behind them. The caption read, They still won't sleep unless they're touching. Rachel smiled, her eyes filled with tears. Because in a world that too often forgets the voiceless, two dogs had reminded everyone of something timeless. That real love never leaves. That loyalty knows no limits. And that sometimes the most powerful stories come on four legs. The end.